started with our Funding Pathways event. Just to give a quick intro, the purpose of this event series is to dive into the many different routes that you can take to fund your business and help you understand and decide which path suits you best. We do so by bringing in a panel of wonderful industry professionals. However, this month we have a twist, which is why I'm so excited for today's event, because all of the companies joining us are specific to non-dilutive capital. So I had quite a few attendees sign up and say that they actually don't know what non-dilutive capital is. So to give a brief definition, and in a moment here, our speakers will get more into it, but just a brief definition, non-dilutive capital is any capital source that does not require equity in exchange for capital. So it allows business owners to receive money without giving away any ownership of the company itself. And again, our speakers will get more into that, but just wanted to give a brief intro. And for the first 30 to 40 minutes, we will have our panel portion. And then for the remaining half of the hour, founders, you will have the opportunity to enter breakout rooms with our speakers, and you'll get to choose which room you would like to go to. So definitely, as our speakers are talking, be thinking about who might be best for you to connect with further, get a little more one-on-one time for questions and whatnot. And today we have 4 different companies joining us. We are welcoming Hello Alice, Clearco, OpenGrants, and the Caravanserai project. Thank you all so much for joining us. And I will just kick it off by having you each give a brief introduction of yourselves and the companies you're representing today. And let us know what type of non-dilutive capital you have experience with and what types of founders should be reaching out to you. I'll pass it off to you first, Elizabeth.
Absolutely. So I am part of the venture partnerships team at Clearco. I focus on the New York ecosystem, and Radha, my colleague, focuses on LA. Prior to joining Clearco, I was in the venture capital world, and I focused on education technology and future of work companies. And I also was a founder of an e-commerce business. So I actually took Clearco Capital and experienced the growth in my business that non-dilutive working capital can make. We fund businesses that are online, direct to consumer businesses. And we actually have a lot more equitable distribution of capital because we are a product-led company. So we fund 30 times more females, 8 times more people of color than traditional venture. And so far, we have distributed over $3.5 billion in capital and funded over 7,000 founders. And we have over 47,000 founders that have connected into our platform. We're on a mission to fund 1 million. And so would love to talk to founders more about Clearco.
Okay, next. Hi, everyone. My name is Brittany Hall. I'm the Senior Director of Impact at Hello Alice. That's helloalice.com. We are a free online platform for small business owners. And while anyone can join the platform, we have a specific emphasis on what we call the new majority of small business owners. So that's women, people of color, entrepreneurs with disabilities, military connected families, and members of the LGBTQ community. Currently, we offer grants. We're going to do $30 million in grants to small business owners this year, as well as we've got a lending marketplace that has been pre-vetted for lenders who are fair and equitable with their capital. And you can put in your information once and it's pre-qualifies you for, I believe it's over 90 lenders on the platform now. Really excited to share that also in May, we're launching a credit card in partnership with MasterCard that's going to offer both a secure credit building product that automatically graduates to an unsecure offering as well. So would enable you to take out a business line of credit that would also build the business's credit. So looking forward to the conversation.
So I'll go next. I'm Radha Kapoor. I lead the venture partnerships team at Clearco. I previously was a corporate lawyer in New York. I was a founder after that. I had a consumer tech business in the fashion space. I've then worked at Techstars, and I've worked at other early stage startups in business development and partnerships. And yeah, I'm based in LA. And I think Liz very eloquently gave a quick summary of Clearco, but I'm looking forward to getting into it in more detail. Thanks.
Awesome. I'm happy to go next. I'm Sadel Trabowski, the CEO and co-founder of OpenGrants, and we focus on streamlining access to grant funding. So we're actually, I believe we're in like the partners marketplace or something at Hello Alice, but also really for our ultimate mission is to create a single kind of common app for grant funding to break down barriers to access and allow people to quickly and efficiently access grant funding instead of having to go to a bunch of different places to apply. So that's what we specialize in, and focus on everything from federal funding to private philanthropy and everything in between. So excited to chat and get into it with you all today.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mihai Patra, and I'm the Executive Director of Caravanserai project. We are based in the Inland Empire in Palm Springs. Somebody was mentioning about San Bernardino, but our work is focusing on the Inland Empire, California, but also we have national and international presence. We are a 501c3, like I assume many of us here, but we are focusing on providing technical assistance and capacity building to mission-driven organizations and entrepreneurs, whether they are nonprofit or for-profit ventures. And by technical assistance and capacity building, we are doing trainings. Recently, we have been part of some interesting project that I will mention later with the state of California, as well as Wells Fargo, and providing unrestricted micro grants to startups, entrepreneurs in California specifically. And obviously, we are focusing on historically underserved communities and different minority groups like BIPOC, LGBTQ, veterans, and so on. Caravanserai started as a fiscal sponsor for mission-driven entrepreneurs that wanted to develop, get engaged, and be change makers at a different level, but didn't want to get caught up in developing an infrastructure around them. And we are still doing that in Ukraine and Africa. We have some partners. Maya was mentioning the pre-accelerator earlier. Caravanserai also designed a pre-accelerator in 2018 in partnership with University of California, Riverside Extension. And we are now working with the fourth cohort. It's a one-year program that provides from technical support to funding. And I see some of our folks, some of our fellows on the call today. So I'm looking forward to the conversation. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for those intros. I am super excited now to get into our conversation. Looks like we have some amazing people joining us today. I did just want to mention real quick to everyone joining, feel free to utilize the chat if you have like a question or a comment come up. Feel free to pop it in the chat. If we have time during our panel portion, we might be able to get to answer it, but if not, you will have a chance to talk in the breakout rooms at the end as well. So my first question for our speakers, and we got a few pre-submitted questions, so thank you to everyone who signed up and submitted some questions. We always appreciate that. But to kick it off, we're wondering, how can you determine the best way to invest in your business with non-dilutive capital? So whether that's looking at like the industry you're in or the stage of business you're in, what type of traction you have, or perhaps it's like the community that you serve, what is it that can help you determine which source of non-dilutive capital is right for you?
I can take that and run with it for Clearco specifically. So Clearco provides non-dilutive capital. The way that we recover the advances that we extend is through a revenue share model, which ranges from 1% to 20% of monthly revenue that we take on a daily basis. So the two products that we offer are advances for marketing and inventory. And there are really two approaches for founders to think through this. The first approach is if you have other spaces that you need to invest in, for example, hiring or product development, and you don't want to dilute yourself or take on very expensive capital, or perhaps you can't because your business isn't in that position just yet, you can have, as long as you have $10,000 in monthly revenue that is being generated online, you can apply for Clearco advances. And so if you get a Clearco advance and you're currently making $100 in revenue on a monthly basis, and you're spending $30 on marketing, for example, you can take Clearco Capital and share $15 of your daily sales. And that frees up that $30 that you were spending before, minus the $15 that you'll be spending now because you're sharing your revenue with Clearco, and you freed up $15 to spend on other parts of your business like hiring or product development. So we really see that our working capital frees up budget for founders to then invest in other parts of the business that they typically would have to raise dilutive capital for. The second scenario is if you want to double down on marketing or inventory. So if you see that you have a really great return on ad spend, and you know that you have a very solid marketing engine, or you know that you have products that will fly off the shelves and you're entering a busy season, it's a great time to double down on marketing and inventory through a working capital advance from Clearco. The things to consider are, what are your margins? So if you're already spending a portion of your revenue, like that $30 on marketing, and then you agree to a revenue share with Clearco, you just have to make sure that you have an efficient way to allocate that capital within the first month or two of taking your advance, so that you can grow your revenues and then pay back that advance over the next 6, 9, 12 months and realize growth in your business right away.
The only thing I would add there just very quickly is that, revenue-based financing is a great fit for the kind of repeatable, predictable parts of the business. Those are the expenses that you would want to use, Clearco Capital or other revenue-based financing providers for. If you're, investing in something where you're essentially making more of a bet, like a new hire or whatever, then you would definitely want to use more expensive forms of capital, such as equity.
And I just want to tag on there real quick to say that, as I love what Elizabeth brought up early on, which was just kind of identifying the strategic places you need funding. So something that comes up for us a lot is, you could get a grant to put charging stations out in front of your business, for example. So if you're like running a brick and mortar business, you get a grant for that, or you could get a grant to upskill laborers or train new employees. And so you want to be really clear about what you probably use non-dilutive capital across your business for a lot of things, but you need to get really clear about what you want to do and have a clear plan. And then you can start to look at kind of the best capital resources.
If I may add, and to this, I think what Elizabeth was talking about was very interesting. In our case, especially that I would say 75% of the beneficiaries we are supporting are nonprofit organizations or are thinking to become nonprofit organizations, which obviously equity is out of the question because the founder does not own that organization, is the board of directors. So you can't really give equity to investors. But there is the other approach to this kind of capital are unrestricted funds, whether they are grants from the state or foundations and so on, which really allow you to invest in the organization and not use most of the funds to deliver a program. And I think one of the most recent example, and we've seen that working, especially in the state of California where we are present. The state really understood the value I think, and COVID was really a breakthrough moment, at least from this point of view, when they understood that small businesses, whether they are mission driven or not, startup entrepreneurs really need that unrestricted capital. And there are a set of programs, the Dream Fund, that is one of them, that Caravanserai project is part of, where literally we are giving micro grants, unrestricted micro grants with very small limited requirements when it comes to the commitment of the grantee, up to $10,000. And there are other programs coming up this July when the similar type of funding, unrestricted, to limited English proficiency individuals, especially in the Inland Empire where we are working. So it really depends on what kind of organization you are starting, or you are planning to start, or already in the business, and how you approach this kind of capital.
I'll just add one more quick thought to that. As you mentioned, looking into the grants terms is important. And so even when you're choosing a grant and a non-dilutive capital, there might be really strict reporting requirements. And so understanding, is it paid in advance? Is it a reimbursement model? And what are those reporting requirements? If there are things that need to tack on, just making sure that you are comfortable with whatever the terms of the grant or any form of capital is obviously a really good place to start before you even get into the application process.
And I think it's the same approach, whether it's investment from a company or a funder or a foundation. It's at the end of the day, you look at what are the expectations, whether we give equity or commit to developing a program. I think regardless of whether it's a for-profit, LLC, nonprofit, should have, whoever is running that organization should have the same mindset Brittany mentioned.
Definitely. Thank you. That's actually a perfect transition into my next question. And seeing that we have so many different options here in the room today for non-dilutive capital, our founders were wondering if you had any tips for completing grant applications, or for example, like in the case of Clearco, like an application to apply for that type of funding. What are your tips, best practices, how to make their application successful or stand out? To Brittany's point, like, is there any kind of like fine print or details that are really important to look for when applying? But really any tips and tricks for filling out those applications?
Sure, I'll go ahead and kick this one off. Again, I'll recommend that you start with the terms and conditions. Within any of our grants on helloalice.com, there's a section that outlines the review criteria. And a lot of people don't take the time to recognize, like, we are looking for 3 things. And this is what the reviewers who will be reviewing your application are reading. And those actually map to the narrative questions on our application. So for instance, we might be looking for the clarity and feasibility of your business plan, your commitment to your community, the innovation in your model, whatever the case may be. And it varies depending on what the grant is. So assuming that you meet all of the eligibility criteria, which is an important one, binary, yes, no, and then getting into those review criteria and keeping those in mind as you write your grant application, making sure that you're using all of the available space that you have for you. So if it says 250 words, give us 250 words and demonstrate your merit of how you support your community or how your business plan will elevate your growth. And then the other thing is to be really specific. So I see a lot of people who are like, yeah, I'll use this for marketing and advertising, but go deeper. So I currently spend this much on Facebook ads. I'm getting this much return. With this additional infusion of capital, I plan to increase this, and I expect to see this kind of return. Whatever the case may be, getting really specific and granular about the allocation of the grant dollars and what you expect that return on investment to do to your business is what really differentiates strong applications within our platform. So yeah, those are my top tips.
Yeah, I'll just add that, extending that to, larger kind of federal grants and just grant funding in general. Sometimes, Hello Alice is great, by the way, because they're like very clear, it's easy to read. But if you go to, the state of California or the federal government, all of a sudden, instead of, a nice clear set of instructions, you have maybe 80 pages of instructions, and you still need to do the same work of reading that very closely and getting super specific, being very clear, and then also understanding that the people reviewing your grant application don't necessarily know anything about your business or what you're doing. So using really clear, concise language that avoids kind of jargon and other sort of terms that may be just common to your business is really important. You want to explain it in a way that is really, really digestible, because first and foremost, the people reviewing your applications have to review a lot of them. And so if they have to start spending a lot of time thinking about what you're saying in particular, they're not understanding the value or how you're responding to their question, but instead are like trying to wade through a lot of information, they're just going to cast it aside. Frankly, they have a lot to work with. And so they're going to pick something else that they understand a bit better and they're comfortable with.
Just wanted to add, and I think Brittany just put it, was so right about everything she said. In our case, it was an interesting transition over the last 2 years, because until recently we were the ones seeking and applying for grants, and it was interesting, to have that approach of reading a grant or reading an RFP and looking, trying to get into the mind of the potential reader or the funder and see what they want. But becoming a grant maker recently, it has been quite an interesting opportunity to be at the other end of the process and see how actually people are writing or thinking about their applications. And, on top of everything what Brittany said, we recently had an opening for about $500,000 in small grants, and we received 330 applications in 3 weeks. It was just, we were overwhelmed. Very basic. We tried to make it very simple. And looking back, I thought a lot of, or an important percentage of those who applied did lack common sense. And I'm not saying that in a cocky way or offensive way, but if some of the answers did not make any sense, honestly. If the question was about your commitment to DI, which is 2022, it's such a common question nowadays in any type of funding, any type of application. I think just writing "I'm committed to diversity" might not land very well. Or somebody wrote, I'm a part of the LGBT community, I live diversity. Well, that's not very convincing. And I think, to your point, we only ask for 50 words, for example. Some people just write 1 word or 2 words. It's just, and I think that's disappointing. Even if the other questions were really good, well answered, you immediately have a certain bias that, well, at least put some effort. And the other thing that we've learned was, it's not, even if the idea might seem very interesting, very innovative, if it's not clear, and if it's not to the point, if you as a reader don't see the perspective of that business growing and generating revenue and really creating some change, you would prefer an application, an idea that might not be that innovative, might not be that groundbreaking, but it's very clear. You know exactly what they want to do, because if they are not able to explain what they are going to do, how would they implement, how would they use those funds moving forward? So, and again, our applications were very simple, but and because we wanted to make sure that as many people as possible, even those who never applied for a grant or will be able to provide good answers. It was very interesting to kind of look, and I would say, a lot of them were just amazing, and people that we had no idea they were in the Inland Empire, where I would say most of the applications came from, how amazing work they are doing and are able to articulate it in a way that bigger organizations, we've noticed, are not able to.
Just to add to that, I think at Clearco, we have an unfair advantage because, well, in the space that we're in, because it's all product led. So we understand the efficiency of your business already by companies and founders connecting their accounts with us. So when I say accounts, I mean wherever you're doing your online commerce, whether that's Shopify, a standalone store, if you're doing business on Amazon, we can see what your revenues are. And then we can also see how efficient your marketing spend is as well. So for us, we actually offer data for founders that will help them grow. So we offer a free insights and benchmarking platform. As soon as founders connect into Clearco, even if they're not eligible for funding just yet because they haven't hit that $10,000 in monthly revenue threshold, or if they aren't ready to take a Clearco advance, they can see how they stack up against other businesses in their category. Through anonymized data, of course, because we have had such a large number of businesses connect into our platform. And so as they grow, we can also show them how their metrics are improving. So it's a great tool for founders to actually understand their growth metrics better. And when they decide if they are eligible for a Clearco marketing advance, I'll just echo something I said before. We give capital, but we also want our founders to use it efficiently. So we do have partner matching within our portal to companies that will help you with marketing, like the top agencies. But founders do really have to understand their brand and where they're going in order to use that capital efficiently and to make the most bang for the buck. And just to quickly answer a question we just got, we advance 1 to 1.5 times founders' monthly revenue in a single advance. And founders are eligible for a top-up within 14 days after taking that first advance. The Clearco tool is optional, but it's completely free.
Thank you. Thank you for